There was a classic magic trick that was performed in the 1800s, and it would amuse and entertain the public. And I have sort of my version of that. The trick was to take a pitcher and pour different liquids out of the same pitcher. Something like that. Today, this is very easy to do. And of course, I'll let you in on the secret on how that's done. It is done with a food dye. I had a little drop at the bottom, and as you can see, it produces some really magnificent colors. But there's a but with food dyes these days. They are somewhat controversial. I mean, the controversy goes back to red dye number 2, which at one time was accused of causing cancer because of a couple of studies that were done at that time in the Soviet Union. This goes back into the 60s. And the Americans said, what do the Soviets know about red? And they didn't really buy into this. The studies had been done on rats. But nevertheless, this caused a great commotion. And many candy manufacturers, for example, those who made M&Ms, actually removed the red dye from their candies, even though it was not the one that was being used. They were using red dye number 40, but they were so scared that people would think that they were using the Russian dye that they removed it. Well, since that time, there have been all kinds of controversies about food dyes. And one that came to attention in 2007, the so-called Southampton study, because it was done at Southampton University in the UK, looked at the effect of food dyes on the behavior of children. And what the researchers discovered that when children were given certain food dyes and their behavior was evaluated by parents and by teachers, there was an effect. And in Europe, this then precipitated a warning on foods that contain these dyes. It said that you have to be careful because it may cause behavioral problems. As you can imagine, producers didn't want to put that label on there, so they started to take out the so-called synthetic dyes and replace them with natural ones. And since that time, there has been a movement afoot around the globe to do that. The dyes that you look at here are synthetic, meaning that they are made in the laboratory, they are made from petroleum, not that that has any kind of relevance. But it is possible to have colors that come from natural sources, and those are available these days. What are they? Well, some of them are made from paprika, which has a nice reddish color. Spirulina, which is a type of algae, will give you green. Turmeric gives you a yellowish color. And beets can give you red. Grape juice gives you kind of a purplish color. So the movement is afoot these days to replace the synthetic dyes with the natural ones. And I'm in favor of that, because I think that food dyes serve only a cosmetic purpose. We can live quite nicely without them. Now, that is not to say that I'm really worried. I mean, I don't mind eating a candy that is colored. I think, though, that there are enough issues about children eating all kinds of foods that have food dyes. But in any case, let's remember that the foods that contain these dyes are generally not foods that are nutritionally very good anyway. These are your highly processed foods, or junk foods as we call them. Occasionally, fine, but better to stick to fruits, vegetables, and the natural colors that they contain.